Hello, my name is Stephen Redman and welcome to Pastor's Library. This is the channel where we talk all about theology books that might be on a reading list for a seminary course or a bachelor's or master's degree in biblical theology or biblical studies, or perhaps just books that have piqued your interest. Maybe you're a student at home, maybe you're leading a Bible study and you're wanting a bit of a tip. Well, this is where we might give you some. So today we're going to talk about a series of study books. And if you like what we have to say, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Please subscribe and click on the bell. That will just make sure you get notified when we launch another episode. And remember to leave a comment below if you have anything to say. I do try to get back to everybody in due course. Today we're going to talk about the T&T Clark Bible study guides. Now, many of you will have seen these kicking about. They're quite small, sort of a pocket book. Because of my age, I tend to think of these as the observer's book for Bible study. But this is a series which is now, as far as I can determine, being withdrawn. You can still pick them up. Because of this, you can pick them up quite cheaply. Some of these I've picked up for £2.50, which in English money is not a lot. Some of them date back to the early 80s, but many of them were reprinted in the early 2000s, 2003, 2004, something like that. So, what are these all about? This one, for example, is by the great scholar Wybray. Now, this was published initially in 1983 and then reprinted as recently as 2003. It's 85 pages. It's clearly not incredible in its detail, but it's a great overview. It's a great entry to this one is to Second Isaiah. I really like it. I was quite tickled by it when I read it, which I have to say was quite recently. There's the great James Dunn, who wrote this one in 1995, which was reprinted as late as 2003, 118 pages on 1 Corinthians. This is a breath of fresh air, it really is. If you want to read about women in worship, this is really worth a read. It's got a great section on spiritual gifts and gives a warm welcome to this subject which is so often ignored, but it's definitely worth reading. And I think that anything by James Dunn is worth reading, really. This one by J. Eaton is Job, and it was first published in 1985, reprinted in 2004, 70 pages. In its bibliography, you've really got to look at these. Sometimes the bibliography is more updated, but this one, the bibliography is stuck in 85, so much so that it doesn't feature Hartley's really critical commentary on Job, which was published in 88. So I would say this book is quite well past it, to be honest. Mark's Gospel by W.R. Telford, published in 1997 and republished in 2003. 162 pages. This is quite good. And he goes in depth into the history of it, the literature, and the theology. His section on the theology of Mark is really good. That's nothing to be ignored at all. Now, I've got quite a few of them. There was definitely a determination when they were first published. I think these were first published by Sheffield Academic Press and then by T&T Clark. And they were intended to go through the apocryphal books. Now, to the best of my knowledge, I can't find any record of them publishing anything other than the Wisdom of Solomon. So they're not brilliant on the apocryphal and pseudepigraphical books, but there is that. And this is 106, 105 pages, which again was published originally in 1997 and republished in 2003. So that's all very good. The pluses: small, easy to process, easy to read, usually written actually by quite good scholars. They now currently quite cheap. If you find them in a second-hand bookshop, they're going for very, very little indeed. Excellent choices, but it would appear that T&T Clark have upped the ante and have relaunched the series. It is now called the T&T Clark Bible Study Guides 2. The existing ones were the T&T Bible Study Guides, but this is to the New Testament or to the Old Testament. And as far as I can determine, these would seem to be genuine replacements. They are largely by new authors compared to the original ones. And I would say that these are definitely worth collecting. Now, even though this is brand new, I've just picked up 1 and 2 Thessalonians for £5, which is a very good price. I didn't pay much more for Philemon either. But basically, these are an introduction to the contents of the biblical book. The publisher describes them as being a balanced survey of important critical issues. They pay attention to the literary, historical, sociological, and theological perspectives, and suggestions about the critical appropriation of the text to the contemporary reader are generally included. You will see good bibliographies. I will have to say, actually, they're quite good. I got quite a bit of things I've picked up from these bibliographies. Now, this series has got, at the moment of filming this, 17 volumes in the Old Testament, 15 in the New. The Old Testament started being published in 2016. The New Testament started being published the following year, 2017. And these are still currently being published. So there was definitely one came out this year. But we're getting close now to the series completion. Now, each book in this modern series is written by a member of the Society of either New Testament Study or Old Testament Study. Now, both of these are old, traditional, academic societies, and you have to qualify to be a member. And what they're saying is all of these books are written by people who have a right to have an academic opinion. Now, the one on Job by Catherine Dell, Job is, you probably already picked up from me that Job is one of those books I always want to see what people say about. She has a section in here about retributive justice, and I'm glad that she does because it's a big theme of Job. But what she seems to me to miss is she seems to miss that the book is actually rejecting the idea, although she recognises that he's talking about it and talking about it quite exhaustively. So that's a definite consideration. I feel it does at least deal with the big issues. The one on Hebrews, which is co-written by Patrick Gray and Amy Peeler, I found this one was particularly engaging. It deals with the author, the audience, the genre, all the expected points. I picked this up just to sort of, what are these series about? And I found I was halfway through before I got much further. I mean, it really is a very engaging book. I don't know if that's Amy Peeler and Patrick Gray or just Amy Peeler, because she is quite engaging. The Thessalonians volume deals a lot with eschatology, which of course is ideal. Very, very good book. It's a definite value for money book, I would say that. Particularly if its price stays at where it is at the moment. The Philemon book, I was really thrilled to see that this was 112 pages on Philemon, published in 2017. The author starts with a great example from his own life on context, and I was sucked in by this argument to the point where, again, I was halfway through the book before I'd realised what I was doing. This is an excellent book at widening your vision on a really narrow part of Scripture, on what is a super small epistle. And I would have to say, I think this is probably one of the best books I've read on Philemon. Which I suppose is sticking my neck out, but it really is excellent. What am I saying here? I'm saying this. If you've got loads of these little collected books of this, what I would call the observer's books of the Bible, those books are worthwhile largely, but the majority of them, you've got to be a little bit suspicious, particularly the Older Testament ones. You've got to be a little bit suspicious of their quotability. But many of them are still in the quotable section, and I think they have something really good to offer, simply because they're so cheap at the moment, and you can pick them up often in incredibly good condition from second-hand bookshops. But the new series, the T&T Clark Bible Study Guides to the New Testament and to the Old Testament, now these are really an excellent update to the original series, which was firstly bought in by T&T Clark or acquired by T&T Clark. And this is a sort of a more of an in-house one. The authors have all got pedigree. They follow a very similar ethos, which has clearly been laid down by the publisher. I want you to approach these particular themes, and they do it very well. Roughly sort of 110, 150 pages, maybe slightly less. They are very, very good value. And if you're wanting to study a particular book, like, for example, the Philemon one that I mentioned, what a great idea to buy that as a precursor to studying the text itself. I mean, there are some reasonably substantive commentaries on Philemon, but this is a great introduction. And whether or not it's that or a larger book like Mark's Gospel or whatever, these are a series that are definitely well worth engaging with. So, if that's whet your appetite, please remember to give us a like on YouTube. Why not also subscribe if you haven't done it? Costs you nothing, and it just helps us popularise the channel a little bit, for which I am very grateful for your support. And remember to click on the bell. That will just make sure you get a notification when we launch another episode. And until next time, everybody, I'll just say keep reading, keep enjoying it. Remember to leave me a comment. And until next time, I'll just say bye.